The screen of my computer is presumably being recorded, which could be useful. Okay, so let's start with status reports really quickly. So just say something about what you've been up to related to this course.
Homework.
Okay, homework? Homework. Everybody's doing homework. Okay, that's good. Wait, back there? Start there. Yep. What? Okay, cool. Beth, any questions? Homework.
Started to look into the project.
Okay, which is one of the homework problems.
Right.
Say something about what your projects could be.
So,
Homework. Okay. Yep.
Trying to get used to markdown language. It seems weird, but
Yeah, true. It's
Well,
supposed to be
we-
like email, but okay. Okay. All right. Josh. Okay. You, guy. Not paying attention, guy. Yeah. Okay. Homework. Okay. Good. Okay. Right.
homework.
Hey. Okay. Pretty boring. Homework. Okay.
I read chapter 2 with less than perfect comprehension.
Good.
I checked out Crowley and Taylor, but I couldn't understand the introduction. I couldn't tell you if I did buy the book.
Yeah, that's definitely aimed at the graduate level. Welcome, Taylor. Okay, good. Somebody else who just came in? What have you been up to? Status? Cool, good job. And me, I ran the Sage math software booth at the joint math meetings in Baltimore. And then I got us a better room, so that's good. This room's better, I think. It's closer to some people's classes, and we can see something outside. And it doesn't smell like perfume really, really strongly. And the computer projector seems dramatically better. Okay, so that's status reports. Next questions about Sage Math Cloud. So I'll try to summarize answers here. Let me just point out a few things quickly before we go into random questions related to things I sent out in the mailing list. One, in the shared project, it seemed that people had fun trying to do their homework directly inside of sort of the random shared version. So I've done something, I've made it so that whenever I update this, I set the file to read only. So you can't actually modify the shared homework problems. Okay, and I also reset this to the original state because it was all messed up and things were deleted and so on. So like if you try to change things here, when you touch the keyboard, nothing happens, and this green save button just says read only. Okay, so that addresses an issue that popped up. If you're, say, the person who did their homework in the shared project and didn't do it anywhere else, then if you click on Files, Snapshots, you should find this browser which lets you browse previous versions. And so if you can find the version from 6:30 a.m. in here and then get back your homework. So just so you know. In general, in any project, there's always this snapshot button on the right. And what it allows you to do is browse past versions. So the way Sage Math Cloud works is that when you're actively using it, every 2 minutes or so, sometimes a little bit more frequently, it'll make a snapshot of the complete project. And so if you delete everything or things get messed up, the exact state of all the files at many points in time in the past are saved. Okay? You also get a sense of when you were working. Like you could see something was happening around 11:06, but then nothing until 11:47. There is an issue which will, I think, be fixed in the next few days. On certain browsers, in certain cases, when you click here, it just doesn't work. It has to do with converting time zones back and forth, which is kind of annoying. But there is a way to get around it. If you click and it works anywhere, then you can just browse up one level and then just browse the snapshots this way. There's just a long list there. And these are all in UTC, which is the time zone in England, which is like 0 offset in time zone offsets. So the whole thing is just there if you need to use it. It's in a hidden directory called .zfs/snapshot. This shouldn't be something you'll have to worry about. And in the near future, it will also be the case that you can browse through past versions from the actual file itself, but that's not implemented at present. Right now you have to go into the snapshot thing, and then browse around in your file system. Let me just show you a little bit more about that. So let's say you're in Snapshot and you want to see what the version looked like at 11:13. Oh, so right there, notice really late in the day when you click here, there's some time zone conversion back and forth issue, which means that you don't get to see it. So if you just go to an earlier time, maybe it has to be AM, it's just some time zone thing, then it'll work fine. And once you're in here, then you could just browse up one level and see everything. So this is a temporary bug. But if you go inside, find some file that you're interested in, and then click on it, it'll open and it'll be a read-only version. And you can then look at it, copy and paste things out of it like this. Just highlight and copy paste. You can also go to the right where it has a little copy thing. Click on that, and then you can say where you want it to send the file. It'll make a copy from here to something else. So you might just say, you can just edit this however you want. Like maybe restore to there. And then you click this button, and what it does is it makes a copy of that file, which is now in the home directory, and that's just a normal readable, writable file. Okay, so that's how the snapshot stuff currently works. It's really the minimal possible way at which it could work. Much more desirable would be if right here you could click something and then easily scroll through just the past versions of this one file, rather than having to search for the file, in some directory hierarchy based on time. But that just isn't implemented yet. And one feature I want to add is that if you type like a message right here, this is good, then it would, right next to that message, it would be good if it might not allow that because I said it read-only, but you type a message, then the message appears right here. It would be good if that message had a link to that version of the file. So then you can kind of save different versions just by putting a little chat message in. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out since it's a source of potential confusion. All right, so now a couple of questions. Just go back to the log. So I just made a remark about snapshots can save your ass. Okay. All right, so questions. Any questions? Yes?
So you said in the future you will just automatically grab our homework file at midnight
Yes.
on Wednesday. Will it be automatically put into our homework
Yes.
file as to start?
Yeah.
Okay, there's the worksheet.
Mm-hmm. You'll just open your project and there it is. So that is, I think I'm going to implement that tomorrow, but I've been kind of, on the Sage Cloud mailing list, we've been going back and forth with some design ideas for how this will work exactly. In case you're curious, in my project, I'm just going to add a new pane, like somewhere down here, a new little cube, or new little like rectangle, and I'll have something that allows me to explicitly add all of your projects to this project as linked projects. And then what I'll be able to do is take the homework assignment and click something, and it will send that homework assignment to all of your projects. And then I'll be able to set a collection date, at which point it will copy all of them back to this project. I will grade them, and then when I'm done grading, I'll click another button and it'll copy the graded versions back. So that's the plan. So it's pretty straightforward, but it will save you all the time of downloading and uploading, ever like worrying about doing anything at all with your file. The key thing will just be that your file is in the right place. The place being exactly where you found it when it appeared there. Okay? And the only potentially scary thing about doing this is, what if I push out a file that overwrites a file with the same name? So it will make a backup copy in the trash if there happens to be something with the same name that's getting pushed out over. In case you're curious, which you probably aren't. Okay, so homework workflow. I mean, basically what I'm creating here with this homework workflow is something kind of like WebAssign or something, where you get an automatic homework thing and then it comes back, except I'll be able to write a potentially very complicated Python or other program which can go through and automatically grade things. And then I'll grade some of it manually. So it'll be kind of like WebAssign, but far more powerful and flexible. Step 1, step 2, something, and then step 3, get really rich. Okay, other questions? Yes, Josh. Wait, what emailing command? Oh, inside of Sage Math Cloud that sends an email? That's a good question. It will depend, I think, on the destination email address. So there's a command in Sage called email. That's probably what you're asking about, right? And if you look at the help for it, it sends an email That's what this says. Anyways, so here's an example of sending an email. The problem is these virtual machines in which your projects are running, they're not like normal computers on the internet. So the recipient might just decide that that this is just some spammer and not allow acceptance of the email or automatically spam filter to bounce it. So automatically sending emails from projects, whether or not that works will depend a lot on the recipient. I think I've used this command before, and when I sent to my UW address, it would work, but my Gmail address wouldn't work. So I ended up sending it to my UW address and then forwarding it onto my Gmail address. So currently that command is somewhat restricted. Because if you think about it, any spammer could just get an account on here and then run a for loop and then call the email command a lot. That could cause trouble. So that's a limitation. So email command, maybe. There are Python libraries for sending emails. Like you can enter your Gmail login and password and like create emails from Python if you want. So that's an approach you could take if you want to do something a little more powerful where you have you're using literally your own email account. That's really the right way to do this. That would avoid spammer issues. Okay, any other questions? Okay, now let's go over the homework. So this is a new assignment that I just created this morning. Many of the problems are somewhat based on problems that are in chapter 2 of the book, but with some variations. I thought of it, well, should be all pretty, most of them are fairly theoretical this time around. So the first problem is to prove that a plus b to the p is congruent to a to the p plus b to the p mod p. Okay, and one way to do it is to know something about this binomial coefficient. And this identity is sometimes called the freshman dream because freshmen will perhaps think that x plus y to the p is x to the p plus y to the p. But it isn't in general, but it is modulo p. Problem 2, the first part is to show that a to the p plus, or sorry, let me move that up. A to the p is just equal to a mod p. If you think about it, if you prove this, you could actually trivially do the first problem. So that might be a way to do problem 1 if you don't want to mess with binomial coefficients. It's up to you. And then another problem, which is kind of a question, is the same thing true if you replace p by any positive integer. Okay, third problem is to give a formula for all of the solutions to ax plus by equals d. So when you use the extended Euclidean algorithm, if you have two numbers such as 2014 and 3000 that have GCD 2, then you can find some linear combination of those two integers, where the coefficients are also integers, that's equal to 2. That's what the extended Euclidean algorithm gives you, which I hope you saw in chapter 1. And this is a formula that allows you to systematically get every possible pair x comma y of integers so that that relation is satisfied. You get all solutions. There's infinitely many and you get all of them this way. So the homework problem is to prove that. And then do an example and you just find 2 of them and then prove that you'll get all the solutions this way. First you just plug this in and see that these work, and then third you prove that every solution is of that form. Okay? So that's what that problem is about. Just going to zoom in a little. And by the way, I guess almost every problem in this homework you could actually do by hand. The first time I taught this course a long time ago, I spent a shocking amount of effort getting the students to be able to do all this sort of stuff by hand. And we even had an in-class midterm in which they had to be very fast at doing things like the extended Euclidean algorithm by hand. I'm not so sure that was a good idea in retrospect, but I won't be doing that to you. You can learn a lot, though, from trying to learn how to do these things by hand efficiently. There's a lot of little tricks, and you can gain a lot of understanding. And I'm trying to vary the assignments. Some of them have a lot where you can maybe write little tiny programs and play around. Some of them you could do, like this one you can pretty much do, if you print it out and sit down by the fireplace. Okay, so here's another one. Find 4 complete sets of residues modulo 11, where here every element in the complete set of residues has to be non-negative. So you could do 0 up to 10. Everyone has to be odd, everyone has to be even, and everyone has to be prime. So just write down 4 sets of numbers. This should be very easy because there's an answer in the back of the book, which is the same problem but for 7 instead of 11. Problem 2 is a little bit more theoretical. It asks you whether or not, for any integer n, you can always do this. And so you'll either say, yes, you can always do it, here's a proof, or no, sometimes you can't do this, and here's a specific n where it's impossible. Okay? Problem 5 is just a question about when does n divide n minus 1 factorial? And the exclamation point for factorial is, of course, the punctuation mark. So I make a note that every exclamation point indicates a factorial, except this one, which is the one joke in this assignment. And then, so first, for the numbers 1 through 6, does n divide n minus 1 factorial, just for each one? And then prove a statement that if n is at least 5, n always divides n minus 1 factorial. Okay? It's not completely obvious because you're multiplying all the numbers up to n minus 1, and why should all the factors of n to the right multiplicities happen to have occurred? That's what you have to argue. Okay, and then finally, problem 6 is to take some further steps towards your project. You're going to create a folder, a LaTeX document in the folder, type a title and your name into the document, and then make a very, very rough outline of your project using these tech commands. And then search for words such as basic LaTeX tutorial online, find something, and just try playing around with LaTeX a little bit. Okay? This will be very easy if you already know LaTeX, but I'm guessing that most of you don't. Usually I survey undergrads, and like 99% of them never heard of LaTeX. But maybe it's because it's correctly pronounced LaTeX, not latex, which is how it's spelled. So this word right here, which is exactly the same spelling as latex, in the sense of that rubbery stuff, is pronounced LaTeX, like with a k, in the context of typesetting. And it's a piece of software written initially by Donald Knuth at Stanford, a computer scientist, to do professional level typesetting. It is the de facto standard in math and physics for typesetting technical material. It's kind of like the professional analog of Microsoft Word in those areas of academia and books as well. Okay, so that's the homework assignment, and it's due 1 week from today at 11:59 p.m. Okay, any questions? Yes?
So this still says to email it to you.
Yeah, it says that.
It doesn't.
I will tell you if I finish. I don't know whether I will finish implementing this new workflow thing tomorrow. So depending on whether or not I do, then you may or may not have to email this, whether I finish it tomorrow or over the weekend. Yes?
I tried to have number 2 under the percentage MD, but it always have output is 1.
Wow. So that's for like a list of numbers, like a bulleted, like a list?
No, only I just have number 2.
It came out as bullet.
Solution
Wow, that's crazy. Can you tell me what your name is? What's your name? O-A-N? No. L-A-N. Okay, sorry. Lan Yao. Okay. You type the number 2 and it comes out a 1. That sounds terrible.
It's like trying to like recreate a bullet or something.
Yeah, in Markdown, when you put a number, it makes a bulleted list count starting at 1, no matter what number you
It's
use.
not common. I mean, have
So,
words and
yeah.
starting with a dot. And
Yeah.
its output is 1.
Yep, that's because it's crazy, but in Markdown, let me see, is it in here?
No,
Okay, you fixed it, yeah. So that, it's actually, I guess, correct. I mean, it's part of the official definition of how Markdown works. Oh, I guess for some reason I don't know what all this clear past guess. I guess I'm stuck only using Cloud for the moment. But if you go to the Markdown website, the way you make a bulleted list is by putting a number. I mean, you just put any number, and I think it just makes the bulleted list starting at 1. And there's no way to even make it start at 0. It's pretty stupid. You can make them all 1. It just makes the bulleted list. Here's one thing. Do you know HTML at all? Like, well, I'll teach you just a little bit of HTML. Anywhere in Markdown, if you just put some HTML, it'll use it. So you can, for example, put like pre, and then So this is in your worksheet, so you'll have this. You can, wow, that didn't work. Oh, it did work, yes, okay. So if you're having trouble and you just want to make a little tiny bit of the content, you want to have total control over it, you can just put pre there. Another thing you can do, by the way, sorry, is you can, if you indent it 4 spaces, it will also just pre-format it. And then it doesn't use any markup at all, just like it's exactly what you type. Okay? And by the way, it's really easy to indent.
Can you scroll up?
Yes, sorry. It's really easy to indent a block. All you have to do is highlight the block just by selecting it, and then hit the tab key. And that will indent it 4 spaces. And if you hit the shift tab key, it'll unindent it 4 spaces. Okay? So that's a good way if you just want to have it put exactly like what you put there. You know, any weird stuff, then it'll just put it exactly like you type it. Except, yeah, that worked. And also, if you don't want it to hide constantly, you can do that. Okay. Any other questions about SageMath Cloud?
When you do HTML tags,
Yes.
you can't put them in line with one another. Is that right? Because I tried to do it.
Yeah,
a paragraph tag and it didn't read.
not sure the exact context you mean, but look at the markdown thing. But yeah, there are some constraints. It's not, if you want to just do HTML, just do %HTML. That's just directly HTML. Markdown's nice just because you don't have to you just type less. And it's really a minimal format. But that is pretty annoying and silly that if you happen to begin your answer could easily be 2. So, and then it comes out 1. That's really scary. Okay. All right, so moving on, the next thing, go over to homework. That's done. Now we're going to talk about Euler's theorem and Wilson's theorem. So we'll just do some good old-fashioned math. And for that, I will first, I'm going to stop the